Yes.
It is 7:30, Tuesday, May 16th. We are now calling to order the regular council meeting for the historic town of Eatonville. Mrs. King, do we have a quorum?
Yes.
And let me please, let's share our thoughts and prayers for Vice Mayor Daniels, who is under the weather today, so he will not be in attendance tonight.
Awesome.
So we have a quorum. Please stand for the invocation by Reverend Creighton, followed by the pledge of allegiance.
Let us pray. Our Father God, we thank you once again for the opportunity that you give us to live, move, and have our being. We thank you again, God, for this community, Eatonville, that you have placed us in to be stewards and residents. We ask that you will continue to bless it and keep it and cause your face to shine upon it and be gracious unto it. We lift up specifically the administration, those that are in positions of leadership for this community, that you will continue to bless them with wisdom and knowledge and understanding to make decisions that will be beneficial and advantageous for this community, that will bring you glory and good to those that are the recipients of this community. We also lift up the residents of this community, that you continue to bless us to live together in unity and harmony with one another, that we respect each other's personalities, and that we respect also each other's properties. We thank you again for this town council meeting where we can further be educated and updated on the state and the welfare of this community. We pray, God, that you will continue to cause your face to shine upon it and bless it and give the things to it that is needed and necessary, that it might flourish. Again, we thank you for everything that you're doing in, through, and for it, and we ask you all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item on the agenda is a proclamation. I received an email.
Mayor, approval of agenda.
Off today, approval of the agenda. I would like to make an amendment to the approval, and that is for a presentation by Ms. N. Theory regarding the email that you received, the printout that you received today. Just to give us an update on the funding interest indicator form that she submitted. So with that amendment to the agenda, I motion for the approval of the agenda.
Second.
Is moved in second. All in favor say aye. 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 All opposed. The agenda has been approved. Now proclamation. Ms. N. Theory had sent an email, and she was just passing it through. And the email was about May 20th, the Emancipation Proclamation of the state of Florida. Never even thought about it. But it did get me to thinking. We celebrate Juneteenth, and we talk about freedom. Maya Angelou said that the truth is, no one of us can be free until everybody is free. So as we celebrate Juneteenth, as we will in June, and it signals the expansion of freedom in our sister state, we should also recognize the freedom that occurred in our state as well. January 1st, 1863, President Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, but it only freed those enslaved people that were rebellious. But by doing that, it allowed the African American men in those states to join the Union. And by their joining the Union, it helped progress the battles, and each battle was won, and we finally won freedom for all. And with that being said, even though our nation is not perfect, but therein lies the freedom for each of us to learn their rights and constitutional freedoms as we navigate through society. It would also help us to understand that no one can write us out of history that exists only because we were in it. So with that being said, I want to read the proclamation for May 20th. Proclamation Office of the Mayor, Town of Eatonville. Whereas on January 1st, 1863, President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation declaring that all persons held as slaves within the rebellious states are, and henceforward, shall be forever free. And whereas the Emancipation Proclamation is a symbol of human freedom that led to the expansion of freedom in America, shifting the motive of the Civil War and leading to an end 16 months later. And whereas at the end of the Civil War, May 10, 1865, Union Brigadier General Edward M. McCook arrived in Tallahassee, Florida, to receive the surrender of Florida's Confederate troops on May 10th. And whereas on May 20th, 1865, General McCook declared the Emancipation Proclamation in effect in Florida, effectively ending slavery in the state. And for this reason, Emancipation Day is traditionally celebrated on May 20th in the state of Florida. And whereas with the Emancipation Proclamation, President Lincoln led the charge to reunite the 34 states of our great nation to ensure liberty and justice for all. And whereas Emancipation Day is a time to honor the contributions African Americans made, the principles of the Declaration of Independence, and the freedoms we have in Florida and across our great nation. Now therefore I, Angie Gardner, Mayor of the historic town of Eatonville, Florida, do hereby declare May 20th, 2023 as Emancipation Day in Florida in the town of Eatonville, Florida, urging the Eatonville community to observe and to become more aware of the significance of this moment in African American history and in the heritage of our nation and town. In witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the town of Eatonville, Florida, to be affixed the 16th day of May, 2023. Angie Gardner, Mayor. Veronica L. King, Town Clerk. And I will ask that this be displayed maybe somewhere in the lobby.
Okay.
Next item on the agenda is Ms. N1.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, town clerk, and attorney, and the citizens and those in the audience. Thank you for this opportunity. I've come specifically under the direction of our board president, Chad McKendrick, in an effort to make certain that there is as close communication about what we know at this time regarding the Orange County Tourist Development Tax, TDT, Citizen Advisory Task Force. And I want to say that we have sent out, as of Friday, May 12, was the second meeting of the Citizen Advisory Task Force. I want to acknowledge that Councilwoman Wanda Randolph was in the audience. I also want to say to you that I believe that the process is evolving. What I'm going to say to you tonight is exactly what I know, and that is that on June 16, between 9 a.m. and 12 noon, the Association to Preserve the Eatonville Community is tentatively scheduled to make a presentation before the task force. And I'm going to ask that, as you say, everybody in the sound of my voice will be there at the Orange County Board of County Commission chambers. That's all I know right now. The guidelines, what is going to be, how the presentation is to be organized, all of that, I'm told we will know by the end of this week. It has to go through legal, right? So what I would like to do tonight, briefly, is to, for the benefit of review as well as for the people in the audience, to know essentially what it is that we responded to. It was called an funding interest indicator. This was not a grant. It was not even, it was an application which we had to turn in by 11:59 p.m. on Friday, the 5th of May. We turned ours in, I think, at 11:35 p.m. It asked for a 10-year projection of funding as it related to the tourist development tax grant, tax legislation specific to the Florida statutes. And there were several different categories that you could be eligible for. We are eligible under the category, under the Florida statutes, as a private nonprofit that operates a museum that is open to the public. And that, some of you may know, we've been doing since July of 1990. So we qualified there. What we had to do, and frankly, we would not have been able to do this unless we really had already established relationships. This is what they call bricks and mortar, or a capital indicator. In other words, this is not about festival, this is not about ordinary things. This is about, are you going to be able to put forth an indicator that shows that you are going to be building something in our instance. And in our instance, it is Zora Neale Hurston Campus for the arts, the humanities, and the sciences. The reason that we were able to do this is, in part, is because in 2008, under the grant administration, Eatonville was awarded a $150,000 allocation to hire a consultant to conduct an economic development or an economic development study. And again, this study, I sent the summary. It was several hundred pages, but I did send the 44-page summary to mayor, town council members, Mr. Presley, and Ms. Bonds, so that they could have it as a matter of record. For us, what that meant is that even though the economic conditions are not the same as they were in 2008, but the fundamentals of how the study was put together in terms of specifically looking at cultural assets really allowed us to be able to talk about this. In addition to the fact that in the year 2000, with the help of a firm called Gladding Jackson Kircher England, since has been bought by some other entity, but we were able to actually put together a concept for the Zora Neale Hurston campus. So that allowed us at least the conceptual part. The other thing is we really needed to have someone who had the expertise in terms of real estate development to actually help us to put together a projection. And I really do need to say that that's exactly what this is. There's nothing, this is all, as it says in the application indicator, aspiration. Because the fact is, unless there is something that is done on behalf of the Orange County Public School Board about the land coming back to the community, we really will not be able to do this, because the 23 acres, and that's all we need. Just want to make sure on the record we're not talking about the whole 100 acres. And what we're looking at is what's called the back part, because the study, as an organization, we have always committed to the fact that the high commercial value property, all of that should always be for the town of Eatonville, because it's the highest tax. But there's a portion that really stands to reason in terms of the back, what is called the wetlands. All of that portion, that 23 acres could be done. So that's essentially where we are. I do want to also say this, that it's going to be very important to us as an organization to work as closely as possible with the administration to really be able to make sure that there's no daylight in between what we are looking at and what we make as a proposal, because I do want to say this, I want to say it respectfully, but I want to say with a smile. that the other big boys and girls, I mean, and you can go to the website under Orange County and see what we call the usual suspects, all right? It's really quite something. You need to look at it to see, you know, the kinds of monies that are being asked for, hundreds of millions of dollars for what some people call the sports mafia. You know, it's really quite something. So that's where we are. That's where we are. And I also want to say one thing in closing, and that is, it is so important that we have consistency, continuity in terms of our board president directed me to come to make the presentation, but as a staff member, I want to say to you that over the years that I've worked with different administrations, when there is someone to work with, when there's a staff member, staff to staff, Mr. Presley, for example, when he was here, under the Grant administration, Mr. Bodley. You know, you have to have someone on a day-to-day basis, so I'm hoping that, respectfully, that the town council in wisdom will hold Mr. Presley in place so that we actually have a person that I can work with.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is citizen participation.
Yes, we have Joyce Arby.
Leadership is hard. Mayor, at the end of the last meeting, you said Eatonville is like a baby. It's a profound metaphor. A baby that's been in bad foster care for decades. A baby that's been pimped out and just used for money and personal access, not now, but previously. And you had to make a decision about the baby. When it was time to nominate your vice mayor, the baby just kept getting pulled this way and that way. And as a mother, you decided, I can't cut the baby in half. Nobody's going to yield, so I'm going to yield. You put the interests of the town in the interest of moving forward ahead of what you felt were your own best interests.
You speak with a little louder, please.
I said she put the interest of the town ahead of her own self-interest by not cutting the baby in half, the town giving up the baby. And for that, you have my profound respect. It's hard. Leadership is hard, especially if you take it with the intent that the people elected you for. That was hard. And I wish Vice Mayor Daniels was here so I could tell him that his conciliatory manner and the grace that he spoke to try to reassure you and talk about having to work on himself, as we all do, because we all, make mistakes. We have our shadows. For him to speak about that was also a beautiful thing. And I feel like the baby has a shot, because the baby had no shot before. And then we got Mr. Social Services over there to keep checking on the baby. Mr. Presley, thank you for being here. And everybody on this council brings something special. Indiana Jones, Daniel's on the end. You've got to keep excavating because there's stuff to find. You know what I'm talking about. Thank you. Ms. Randolph, thank you for caring about the older citizens, for people being charged unfairly sometimes with permitting, and bringing up that sometimes the town pays money to certain people that it shouldn't for certain jobs that aren't being done appropriately. And to Uncle Washington, who's the most approachable that so many of the kids look up to, thank you for sharing your gift of availability. And I thank the town attorney when you talked about impact fees being crucial. And Mayor, when you said it's not personal, I want to thank everybody for putting a hold on everything until we get that done. Because it's like we're suffocating ourselves, even though it inconveniences some good citizens like Mr. Julian Johnson and his fiance who want to build now. but even he would understand, we've got to get that straight. And so normally I'd have something to say about negative, but it's just all love right now, and just thank everybody. You know, I'm just proud to be here. Thank you.
We have Tiffany Simmons.
Hello, Mayor, council members and councilwomen, clerk, and local residents. Hello. I'm just here to answer any Juneteenth questions y'all may have, any questions, any concerns. For updates with us, I want to encourage people to participate in the parade. Other than that, we're getting good feedback. Like I said, volunteers, I am so proud of the town and everyone that loves the town. We have over 200 volunteers signed up. We are good on volunteers. Sponsors, I can use about 2 more. And then participants, I want everyone to participate. But if you guys have any questions, I'm just here to answer, council members, and then locals. No, we're good? We have our final flyer. I've been working hand in hand with Councilwoman Randolph, and I think we approved it today. We did approve it today. So that should be going out by the end of this week. Okay? I talked to Mr. Presley. I want to thank the town for all that they have done with this MOT. I'm learning a lot with this parade. I have a totally different respect for people who do parades. And the town has helped with Miss Robinson, who has assisted in the Martin Luther King parade. So she is my right-hand man. And then Mr. Presley making sure that all the financials and the public works side is brought to forefront. Okay? All right, everyone.
And thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
We have no more. That was it. Yeah.
Just a quick question. Are you doing something to marry the town to Lake Lily?
Yes, so we have Mr.
Hold on. Miss,
Sorry.
Yeah, if you can come, if you have a question, it'd be better if you come to the podium so we can make sure it's on the record. So ask for permission first before you speak.
Okay.
Thank
She
you.
opened it, she looked toward everyone and
That's
opened the
okay.
door. Angela Johnson, just a question, and it's only because I'm going to say that there have been individuals that have asked the question, and it may just be increasing the level of understanding of the history behind the town. And so my question to Ms. Simmons was maybe something on the flyer or a flyer that creates that connection.
A bridgeway.
So it's, right.
Gotcha.
And so that is the question.
Thank you.
So we have Mr. Haywood here, who is over the Lake Lily events. And the purpose of this was to bring the communities together. I'm sure people in the audience definitely know the connection between Maitland and Eatonville and Lake Lily, St. John's Hole, and where we started off and where we are today. So we have tied it in. If you look at the flyer, you have June 16th, the Father's Day Gala is at Lake Lily. June 17th, we have our Freedom Riders pulling out with Bruce Mount. That is out of Denton Johnson, and they're actually going to do a loop. They start at 8, but they'll be back by 10 o'clock to be the head runners of the parade, and then we'll have our grand marshals there with them. So we'll have the Freedom Riders in the parade also, and then we have our festival, which will also be at Lake Lily. So then Sunday is Father's Day. We found out last year it's not a good day to throw events. People have family time. So then on the 19th, which is actual Juneteenth, we have Miss Councilwoman Randolph Freedom Celebration at the Life Center. So all of it is connecting the towns together. Our goal was to even bring in Winter Park and see how they can bring it in together. So the name of the festival is the Central Florida Juneteenth, so that we can bring in Orlando, all cities of Central Florida. But definitely tying in the history and the marketing is what we plan to do ahead of time. So I understand. And we can bring in the connection, but it's definitely connected. When we talk about Lake Lily, Maitland, Winter Park, Orlando, Pine Hills, we are all connected.
all right, thank you. All right, so we're going to move on to the consent agenda. Approval of the consent agenda. It's been moved. Is there a second? Moved and second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? The consent agenda is approved. Mr. Preston?
Thank you. Just to update on a few things. First, the MOU for the Juneteenth celebration will be at the next council meeting. Have the attorney review it. Everything looks on point. Starting the week of the 22nd this month, we will start the official change out of the water meters to the electronic reads. So that process will begin. For citizens, some of the adjustments may happen because your meter may not have been working properly. But we're going to make sure it is tested and make sure staff corrects any addressings with that. A couple other things that I just bring to our attention. We have 2 candidates that we're looking at for the Public Works Director. With the approval, we'll address the salary once we get to that point. But we are in conversations with 2 candidates. One that is in the Central Florida area and one from South Carolina that we're recruiting. We've had conversations with several other police agencies on potential police chief candidates, so we're working on that as well. Also, Councilwoman Randolph, you asked about the community crime prevention meetings. One is set for June 8th. The location and the time is being established by our current interim chief, Jenkins, so we'll get that information out to the public for that event on June 8th. I believe, are we looking at Ben Johnson?
Yes, sir.
That'll be the first one. Yeah. So from 6 to 8,
Yes.
June 8th. And if you would look to the screen, I don't know if you can show that. Currently, and I'll allow Attorney Shepherd to talk a little bit about this as well. It was brought to the council's approval, or council to the administration to pursue the review of the charter. On the screen, you'll see some projected proposed dates. I'll ask Attorney Shepherd just kind of get an overview on how we came to this and why we have to use this time frame to meet current requirements for that in his presentation. But these are some proposed dates for that. If you'd like to share that, Attorney Shepherd, you want to share anything else with that before I?
Sure. Yeah, I went through the charter and looked at what substitute covered in each of the 7 articles. And based on that, I determined that depending on if the meetings are at least 2 hours long, we should be able to cover Articles 1 and 2 in the first meeting, 3 and 4 in the second, and 5 through 7, because actually 6 and 7 are very minor and small and will most likely have 0 changes. So it really will be just Article 5. So that means, shockingly to me, we have the possibility of getting through the entire charter in 3 meetings. However, what will happen, perhaps, is if you look at Article 1, I know that at least one council member has expressed interest in exploring a manager council form of government as opposed to the straw mayor form we're under. That's going to be a discussion. It may be one of those things where you decide you'd like to have citizen input directly on that specific issue. And there are other issues in Articles 2, 3, and 4, and some in 5, where the discussion may not be able to get into a consensus about amending or not amending. And when that happens, we call those parking lot issues. In other words, so we can get the meeting over with, we'll say, all right, let's move on. We need further input on that one. Or if we don't, we can decide it. But if we need further input, and that's the decision of the body, then we move that to a 4th meeting, and that's where we invite the community to come in and talk about whatever it is we have put in the parking lot. And you can see where we derive the term. We park them there until we get to them. And then the meeting following that would be where, again, after having considered the input that you get from the community and discussions amongst yourselves, you could make the decision at that meeting, or you could roll that into the next meeting where you actually make a decision on, okay, we are or not going to put in the provision regarding changing the form of government. We are or not going to change the way petitions are done for certain referendum issues. We are or not going to, whatever the issue may be, and it varies from city to city. An example of a parking lot issue in one of the cities I recently did was heights of buildings. And It happened to be a beach community. They didn't want them higher than 3 stories, and of course, beaches are famous for much taller buildings. And so that was an issue. Should they change it so they can have more development, more tax dollars, or should they leave it at the current restriction at that time of 3 stories? I'll cut to the chase and tell you they decided to leave it because the folks were not happy about the idea of raising the height limit. But that's the point. And so they waited till they could get community input, and then they decided that they were not going to change their restriction on the height limits. So those are the kinds of things that it goes on. If all of that goes as planned, then we go to the first reading of the referendum ordinance. That's an ordinance. Well, I'll prepare a final report that covers all the changes. Y'all will then tell me, yeah, we definitely want to put this on the ballot, or we're not, because the first decision is, should we put together a change on a given thing? But then ultimately, you have to vote on a package of things that you want to go before the voters, so I can put them in the ordinance. And then there's an ordinance prepared, it's usually about 3 pages long, with an attachment. The attachment is the title of the ordinance, the questions that'll be for the public, the actual wording of the amendment. And if you've seen them before, you know it reads an ordinance, a proposed change to blah, 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 blah. It's got to be 15 words or less. Then a summary that's 75 words or less of the entire amendment, and then vote yes for, vote no against. But the actual complete text of the amendment never appears on the ballot. So the summary and the title are very important that they accurately depict what the amendment says. But that's how it goes. If for some reason we're able to get through the first 3 meetings and we have no parking lot issues, which would be great, then we eliminate 2 meetings and we can do it even sooner. But all of this is designed to give us the time to get what we need to get to the supervisor elections no later than December 12th. So if, let's suppose, something hangs us up longer than we thought, and we need an extra meeting, we got plenty of time to do that with. We got all of October, and even into the first meeting of November if necessary. So you have at least 3 potential additional meetings slots available to you if you need them, and that's how come the schedule came about. The dates that are here are dates that were proposed by Ms. King, run by me to see if I had conflicts. There were 2 dates that I did have conflicts with, and so that was revised to reflect those. But obviously, I'm not the only schedule that matters here. Your schedule matters as well, and so that's where we are on that, and that's how it works.
Maybe it's something to change.
Yeah, so just if you all are good with those dates, I'll send it out in a staff memo to council. Please interject so we can make sure we solidify this and do public notice to citizens that will have these meetings coming up. Okay. Any open questions on that before we move away from it?
No, Tuesdays and Thursdays work for me.
Okay.
Wednesdays would be hard.
I think most of these are on Tuesdays or Thursdays, away from regular council meetings, so we don't intertwine.
Can we do that? What about time? 6 o'clock or?
We have 6:30 right now approved
6:30.
for all
Well,
of
I'm
them.
saying I'm late.
Are you wanting to go at 6?
If you say it's gonna last 2 hours, but I'm just,
I'm for early too, so you could do it 5 and I wouldn't break my hour. Whenever you want to do it, it's fine with me. Later is, less engaging, but.
no, 6 is fine.
So how are we on time?
Does 6 work or 6:30?
6 work.
Councilman
Yeah.
Daniels.
6
Six.
o'clock.
Not good.
We generally set a goal, so we have a specific cutoff time. Not that you can't extend it, but we have a goal of making
2 hours.
these eiters of 2 hours, so we're not worn out.
Well, can we push it to 5:30? Would that be
Oh,
okay?
for the-
5:30.
Councilman?
So 5:30 it is? Okay.
And this is not the final, of course, we just want to make sure we have a working document to kind of get some proposed continuity for the council. The only other thing I have on there, if you would go to the next page, that's the budget workshops. This is a proposed date. And what we're looking at for that is basically to have a 1 week of budget proposed workshops, which will cover general fund on the first night, and we'll go into enterprise. Then we will have personnel and then closeout information. All that would, of course, include the meeting prior, which I believe is the 18th, July 18th, the proposed millage, which will present that. But then this will be the actual workshop time for budget. Does this date, this time look pretty good for the council?
Am I missing, why is August not on here though?
You said why?
Why does it go from July to September? Am I missing something? Oh.
It's just that week, and then that's when we actually do the budget hearings in September.
I guess she's saying why we're
Oh,
doing August.
okay.
I have a suggestion, only because I'm not sure whether it's an oversight or whether this is going to be in a separate presentation, or might have been with the CRA. But one of the things we ran into last year is the misperception that you do not have to do the CRA budget at the same time you do the city budget, and that is wrong. We have the same deadlines, and so last time we ran short. So if that's a separate document, fine, but if it's not, make sure that somewhere in this process before September 30th, that we have the CRA budget too.
And I believe I talked with Ms. Buns about that, and she's supposed to speak to the board about that as well. So that'll be in that meeting. But definitely.
So one thing I was gonna ask, sorry. I like the outline, I'm glad we're at this point, because now we can properly plan. How soon will council receive, documentation? That's what's in my mind, because, I mean, it still won't be fair, because we'll become convoluted if we wait till the week of or the week before.
Right.
How soon will council get preliminary budget stuff? So then I think that'll help the process along, and we won't be so stagnant in the budget process.
We talked roughly the beginning of July, having that information to you. Do you need more time than that?
No, beginning of July is good, we started at the end of July, that gives time to answer questions and then get supporting documentation.
Okay. So we'll work on that. Also, so if everybody's good with that, we'll make sure that's out for scheduling, and I'll have staff put that out for you as well. So the goal is to get this information as early as possible to you, so the schedules are set, and we don't run into not having everyone with the proper information. Secondly to that, we're currently working on the auditor's wing here starting the May 22nd, I believe. So we should have our trial balance done at the end of this week, and auditors will be here. So if I am unavailable or slow to respond, myself and Ms. Gibson, that's why. We'll be working along with her to make sure we create an SOP for this process of dealing with our auditors to get us back on the proper schedule. As you know, that audit should have been done back in March. It's better than last year. However, the goal is to be within that, to be considered for other awards and recognitions for having our audits done at a proper time. So we're working on that. And that alone, we'll have to set aside, and I'll get with the executive assistant to have a picture of staff. We may look at, we'll use your current picture, we'll use that, and we will need a picture of the council, as well as we're putting a narrative together for the booklet that will go and the presentation of our audit presentation. With that being said, everything else will be in my monthly CAO reports to you. I have nothing else to say.
Thank you. Town Attorney?
Yes, Mayor, I only have one thing to discuss, and that is that we have received a settlement statement, preliminary settlement statement for a portion of our prior hurricane damages claim. Happy to make sure that you all have a copy if you don't. But basically, this was the part that was initially contested through what's called an appraisal process. And for those unfamiliar, the town gets an appraiser, the insurance companies get an appraiser, and they get together and see if they can agree on the loss. And if they can't, then they submit it to a third appraiser, who then decides what the loss actually is. In this case, our settlement was based on the award from the referee process, or the appraisal process, was $137,968.24. Our attorneys take 10% of that, which is $13,796.82. Costs and expenses, which have been the cost of the proceedings, hiring the appraisers and all of that stuff, was $30,264.52. And the net settlement for Eatonville is $93,906.90. Now, of that amount, we had a claims consultant, independent adjuster, essentially helping us with the claim, and they have a fee also of $9,300. So the net to the town for this part of the proceeding, it's only a partial settlement, is $84,516.21. I was asked to go through all of that because the mayor will need to sign off on this document. or have Mr. Presley do it, and so that we can then have the funds dispersed, because the law firm that represents us has the check in their trust account, but can't disperse it until we agree to the sums on this statement. We've had a conference call with them to go through the numbers and agree that those are the correct numbers. We do not know what the second part of the settlement will be, but we do understand from the attorney, Ms. Evans, that the insurance company is now ready to settle, and it just wants us to get this part behind us, so it'll then throw more money at the rest of the issues. So that's where we are.
You get paid on the other half too?
I'm sorry?
You get some money on the other half too?
No, I get nothing.
I'm talking about, no, I mean on the next half.
Oh,
The part two of the
Part
settlement.
two settlement.
Yeah, I don't know what happens with that, because I don't even know what's still in contest. This appraisal process was completed before I was even the attorney, so I don't know what happened with it or what it includes, but I do know that this is how the award came out. Apparently, we had a disagreement, and so that's how they settled that disagreement. But the second part, I'll find out more, and actually, we can even have, if you'd like, we can have Ms. Evans come and brief counsel about it. She's super sharp, so she won't have any problem doing all that.
So what was the initial amount that was, you know those numbers? What was the
I
initial-
don't. Again, the whole claim was filed and everything was done before I was here, because those particular hurricanes happened before I was here.
Yeah, if we can get that information, that'd
Sure.
be great to know too.
So Dennis,
That was given me by the.
do you need that information before
Who signed it? No.
this? I guess that's my question.
I'm sorry. We just want clarity to go ahead and proceed with signing for
Yes,
council.
we
Right.
just need to know.
That's, that part is all, this is done.
That's
There's
it.
nothing to change.
Yeah.
There's nothing, there's no appeal to take. This is all we're gonna get. So this was only a matter of whether the math was
Yeah.
right. Did they calculate the fees right, the costs right, and so forth?
Right, that's no problem. I just wanted to know for clarity, what was the appraisal amount that the insurance company said, and what the amount that.
Okay, I'll find out.
I mean, that's how you can rationale
Sure.
if we've been reasoning.
Yeah, that's it.
All
All right.
It's something she can actually print at any time, because it's in PDF file.
Okay.
But yeah, you can sign this one or any other. She can print it again.
All right, that's it? Attorney Shepherd, that's it?
Unless you have anything else you want me to cover, which I'm happy to do.
No, that's it. All right, Councilman Daniels.
Thank you everybody for coming out tonight. First off, happy late Mother's Day to all the mothers. Mothers are truly appreciated. So, want to acknowledge that. Next thing, question I have, there was an opioid, settlement that came. Did we receive funds from that? Because I know we signed off on it, last year sometime. Do we know the amount?
Mayor and council. We did receive some funds, but I have to give you a total because it wasn't a lot. We got money from Walgreens, I don't think Walmart, just Walgreens.
The one from the state that,
Yes.
without cities, and where did that money go into?
It's in the general fund. It went into the general fund and, it's classified as what it's for.
Yeah, and the reason I brought that up, I sat on a call today with Representative Askamani, just talking about opioid, and then I guess my next question, do we know, is our police department carrying Narcan?
We are.
We are?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Next, do we have a budget yet? I know last meeting, Mayor said, about getting a committee for Founder's Day. Do we have a budget for Founder's Day yet?
No, we do not. I can make sure that's at the next meeting, the budget is presented.
Okay.
We have started reaching out to the different entities to support it, but no budget yet.
And as Attorney Shepherd was talking about our charter and all that, I just wanted to make sure, just get an update. We know that Mr. Singh left on January 27, 2023, so 120 days from that will be May 27, 2023 is we're supposed to fill the CAO. Do we have any applications in for CAO?
None has been submitted besides mine at this time.
So, and I guess, Mayor, I'll just address that to you. When are we gonna move forward, Mr. Presley, or what happened, because we're at the 120-day mark? Chief, retirement was January 13th, so 120 days from that, May 13th, would have been 120 days, where we stand on the sheet.
We have no applicants that have applied at this point, but we have started the recruitment process to pursue some.
So even the old applicants that had put in for it,
I actually have a conversation scheduled with one of the applicants for consideration.
okay. And the only reason I'm saying is just stay within the guidelines of 120 days. And Public Works you addressed, you said 2 candidates. We know that position became available April 25th, so 120 days, be August 23rd, that would have to be filled. Okay. My only other thing is for us just to continue to work together for the betterment of the community. It's all about us working together, working smarter, not necessarily harder, but just working smarter and in conjunction with each other. So something I want to bring up to everyone, in partnership with the Experience Christian Center and Bishop Derek McCray, we have the opportunity in the town of Edenville to work along with them. And disclaimer, I do attend the church, so that's public knowledge. But we brokered a deal with a tablet company called Moolah Wireless. We have an opportunity right now where anyone who receives SNAP, Medicare, WIC, Veteran, Section 8, attend a Title I school, so we know everybody, all the kids here in this whole town attend a Title I Hungerford, can get a free tablet along with free Wi-Fi for a year. Along with that tablet, you'll be able to tether, which is turned into a hotspot, where 3 other devices can come on and do it from that. The thing about it also is, as you utilize the tablet, you can make money off of it. You get gift cards for like Amazon, gas cards, and all that. So I've been working with him and the supplier on that, and we have anywhere from 30,000 to 50,000 tablets that we're getting ready to give away. But by me being an elected official here in town, he suggested to me to bring it up that we can all partner together to afford those to people, so it'll help with the digital divide. So I'll be putting together a house flyer that'll be coming out and a link, and it'll be a big thing. They can sign up for it, and then it'll be a day where it'll be the tablets will be given out. We'll do it here in the historic town of Edenville in conjunction with them with some other vendors. There is another bigger event coming up where people can sign up for it, and there's going to be some giveaways. I just can't disclose that information to the next meeting, but just be on the lookout for it. And that concludes my report.
Councilman Washington.
Thank you. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out this evening. Just happy belated Mother's Day to all the mothers. But one thing I do like to emphasize on with Miss NY TBT money, that's something that this town never went after. Not even the town, anybody in the agency in the town never went after. And I always ask about the TBT money, because we're a tourist area too. A lot of people attend and come through. So I'm glad that we're reaching out to the TBT to get some, I hope we can get some funds from them, because it's overdue for the town of Edenville. It's overdue. So good luck, and hopefully we can get some of those funds, because the Dr. Phillips Center get funds over and over. Citrus Bowl, Campus World State, whatever you want to call it, get funds every time money go out. They get money. So this is something that we need to get out of town, a building, whatever we can gather. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Councilwoman.
Good evening, everyone. Happy belated Mother's Day to everyone. Okay, I have a couple of things I wanted to go over. First of all, Mrs. King, if you can, I have 3 photos I need to show.
You doing a
as
slot?
part of my-
You doing the machine slots first? Because that's first.
Whatever one comes up.
Okay.
Okay, this is something here that I took a picture of one of our neighborhood stores down on the west end. These types of machines, I was going to ask the attorney, are these illegal? Those simulated machines, gambling machines, or whatever they call those?
I can't see them very good from here, but I can tell you that internet gaming machines are illegal. The question I got through email from you earlier said be prepared to talk about internet cafes. And internet cafes, the way they're supposed to be, are not illegal. But internet cafes, the way they were used and utilized, and still go by the term internet cafes, whereas they had computer terminals that were essentially hooked up to gaming systems like this, and they essentially catered to people who, they didn't need internet. They weren't there coming for internet. They were there to play these games and essentially gamble online. Those are illegal in Florida, and you can get arrested for having them. Whether these specific machines fall into that category would depend in large part, I think, on whether they employ games of chance, and are there payoffs and all this, which I can't even see them, much less guess what they are. So the answer is maybe they're illegal. Best way to determine is for me to get more information about what those machines actually do and what they're capable of. Because there's no issue with having a game which essentially pretends it's a slot machine where you pull a lever and you win and it makes a lot of noise. It's different if you're winning prizes and so forth and so on. It's not, if it's just the former, it's like a pinball machine. It makes a lot of noise and you keep feeding it money. But if it actually has payoffs that encourages you to gamble to try to win, that's a different matter. So I can't tell which one that category falls into.
Can we have law enforcement to check that out down at the store on the corner? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'll send you the information.
I've already checked into it one time. I tried to get the information from.
Can you please, thank you so much. Is it?
I've already checked into the machine. I need to check in further. I asked permitting about the machines and didn't get an answer, but I'll get back. Because I did find out they were there. Don't know whether you get a payoff or they're just regular, like the attorney said, they're just regular pinball type machine. But I'll look into it further.
Would that be would that not be another agency?
No, we'll take care.
Okay.
Okay, the reason why I was asking about that, because we don't have anything in our town as far as regulating this type of activity. And before you know it, you're going to have other things, because one of the employees told me Friday that at the Lake Weston Apartments, that they're going to have an internet cafe there. So I'm just saying that, we're trying to do a lot to project a positive image in Eatonville, and we don't want to be subject to some of the other towns and cities that dealing with this problem.
We do have an ordinance on that. I think we have something back in the past by gambling, so.
Yeah, again, I want to be sure that there's a clear distinction too, because while I understand why anybody would call them internet cafes, actual internet cafes are where you come to have service with your laptop, your phone, whatever, and be on the internet because you don't have service anywhere else. And those things are legitimate businesses, but they've become less needed now because, for example, Spectrum has Wi-Fi hotspots. If you're on Spectrum and you know how to get on their outside Wi-Fi, I might be in Ocoee and all of a sudden I got a Wi-Fi hotspot. So actual internet cafes are not the issue, but those that masquerade as internet cafes, telling you that they're just selling internet time when they're actually providing this service is a different matter. So that's what we're talking about.
This here, I apologize, that's not an internet cafe.
Yes.
That's a machine.
Right.
You put your dollar in or something, and it spins around, and if it gets whatever, you win money.
Okay, that's the problem.
That's a problem. Okay. Thank you. Next. Took a little trip down to the other end and visit both apartment complexes. The one that is on your right, the far end, the light color building, they're coming along pretty well. There's about 7 buildings, apartment buildings in all 4 floors. And one of the buildings will be ready shortly. I don't know how soon they're going to actually have them up for sale, for rent, but those apartments are going to be market apartments. And they did, again, inform me that for first responders from Eatonville, they do have a certain percentage that's going to be held for Eatonville for market apartments for first responders, police officers, firefighters, school teachers, those kind of things. And I think maybe town employees. So, you can, later on, they will be having a management company that's going to be taking care of all of that. They did not give me the management company. They said they'll get back to me and let me know exactly who's going to be managing that. The other one on my left with the green panel, actually, now the way things are, that's been going along pretty well. Contact Mr. Percy about some things that they needed from the town, and he took care of that today. Those apartments, the roof, they're gonna start putting the roof on sometime later on this week. He said if it's not by the end of the week, it'll probably be sometime on Monday. So those are going along very, very fastly. Now, there's been a lot of people that's been coming by there every day asking questions about those apartments. These apartments will be like Section 8 type apartments. Not the whole entire apartment complex, but they will have quite a few apartments for low income. There will be a banner that will be posted on the outside of the facility. He says sometime by the end of mid next week or the week after. So he says when people drive along, just let them know they can get the information off of the banner that's going to be posted on the outside gate. Okay, a couple more things I just want to mention. About 2 months ago, we had the Orange County engineers here. There is a problem trying to turn left and right into those apartment complexes, especially the Lake Western. So, Mr. Presley, can you get with the engineers? They had mentioned about the town responsible for some type of traffic study or something. Remember they said that the last time they were here?
Yes.
Can you check on that, please? Okay, thank you. Okay, historic preservation. We have a board. I did contact the state and I sent Mrs. King, she has information about historic board training over in Sanford. Mrs. King, can you tell them a little bit about what you know about that training? Please.
I'm not in a position to intelligently speak about it tonight, but I have forwarded to your emails. If you have any questions about the training that's being offered, it is a free training, but you do have to register. And that is for those who are on the Historical Preservation Board and those who work with the Historical Preservation Board. It's a great opportunity to learn more about, you know, expectations on sitting on that board. What are some of the projects that you can look forward to making decisions on? And again, my office, I have an open door policy. If you have any questions, feel free to give me a call. Thank you.
Okay, the last thing I have is I attended the, what's that, a workshop? It wasn't a workshop, Friday. The tourist development.
Yes, the second meeting of
The tourist development tax meeting. It was the second meeting. And I want to say it was very, very interesting. I learned a lot. Actually, PEC, they do qualify as far as meet the qualifications for the criteria. And there's 4 ways that you can get money there. Okay, one of them is that their first priority is the convention center. That's one of the priorities that they look for when you're submitting these proposals. Also, a museum, which I was saying the PEC qualify as far as meeting the criteria for requesting funds. And the other ones are sporting events and what's the other one? Art. Something to do with the arts.
I think there are actually 7. Let's see, just a second. I think I have
Yes. But anyway, they have millions and millions and millions of dollars. I'm talking about lots of money, $300-400 million. They have projects running like $500 million. They're going to be doing a lot of things as far as improvements, like the stadium down there. They're going to be putting a cover. It's being proposed to put a cover over the stadium. a small convention center or something, there's gonna be a lot of things that's gonna be going on. So anyone that's in that kind of business, there are lots of money that you can tap into resources and kind of get funded for a lot of those. Now, the only thing that I really had a problem with, and that is I was very concerned about in the manner of how this was, and Ms. NY, don't take it personal, I'm saying don't take it personal, but how this came about as far as where are you going to, your proposal for this particular complex that you are pursuing funds for, $87 million over the course of, what's that, 10 years, correct? Okay, so I had a concern about the Hungerford property, and I didn't know exactly, even here today, as a council, as a town council member, anything that we just have not met to even discuss our plans for the future. And I don't know if the mayor has met with the Orange County School Board Superintendent about our intent from the town, not from PEC, from the town of Eatonville. Where do we go from here with the Hungerford property? Because I'm still looking at opportunities for the town for revenue generation on tax. Building a town, a city, having businesses here, and those kinds of things are the things that I'm looking for as far as the property. Maybe not the whole entire parcel, but somewhere along the line, the town of Eatonville has to be actively engaged in doing something there on that particular property. Now, this is my feelings. I don't know how anyone else feels about it. But it's time for us as a town to move on. I am in favor of a museum. It's been long overdue. I have no objections in getting a museum. However, I feel if we get a museum, my opinion, I think that the town should own the museum, and you all should operate the museum. That's my opinion. Okay. So I just want to let you know exactly how I feel about a lot of this, and I'm kind of a little disappointed that this did not come before the council early enough so we'll be aware of it. Even the mayor said that she was not aware of it until this came up recently. So I kind of felt like we were due the respect to let us know that you were going to do this, and that way you'll be able to get some feedback from the council as to our direction as far as this topic is concerned.
Would you like me to respond?
Are you asking Mr. Theory to respond?
If you want to respond, you can.
All right.
Briefly,
sure.
Briefly respond.
There were 8 criteria under the Florida statutes. This is an instance where I think that we have to really be very clear about what this is. In other words, this was a form that was sent out in our business. We're part of arts and culture, and every organization was sent this out, right? This is it's a kind of thing that you have to respond by deadline, but there's nothing in stone, literally. In other words, it's not a matter of, it's a projection. It's a projection. That's all it is. And as such, it says funding interest indicator. That's you either get the application in or you don't. It's not really about that's really all it is. There's no guarantee. There's no guarantee about what's going to happen, period. So let's put it this way. If that's right, we're at the table. You have to send it in. Now, if we get the money, as I've indicated, In other words, but believe me, it's, we don't know, they
Thank
don't
you.
know.
Thank you. Wait, Councilman, you finished?
Yes.
One question, Councilwoman Randolph said you had to get something done down there at the Enclave project. What was that? What you need to do for them?
They are in the process of getting their addresses for the buildings, and so we work with them to help them get through the process of getting the addresses on the different units that will be in there. So they had to have the street name sent through the 911.com, which is through our current system with Orange County, and then also the GIS to put the addresses forward so that those addresses shows up in the main system within Orange County.
Okay, and the other thing that with the streets, I noticed the county did come in and say something about the streets, and that's something that we missed, that the last board missed on the development agreement, that we will lose on. Another somebody we're gonna lose on because we're not responsible for the interest rate. That's something you give to the developer to put on them. We don't, the town should be putting any money in for the interest rate, turns, lane, anything. That's on that developer.
That's
If
correct.
we do that, we're already missing on the Enclave project, we missing funds on. So if we go in and do that, we missing more funds. So that's something that they need to do. We need to come back to the table because that's what we're supposed to emphasize on them to put in the development agreement, to put the turn lane in, put that off turn on going east and one going west, put that turn lane on that side there. So that's something we need to talk about because the town shouldn't be putting no more from the bill on either one of those projects.
Well, the question about the property is about the turn lanes. County has done their engineering analysis on it. It did not meet the requirements at the present moment, based off some of the conversations I've had with Councilwoman Randolph. She thinks there's going to be a bigger concern there. So we just have to have the actual counts in order to figure that out. So if it's at the pleasure of the council, if we're going to pursue and to look into that, we do have an engineering company that can assist us. But as far as when the construction part comes, it's really based off where that ends up. If they're done with the project, and if there's guidelines in there, we'll
So
look into that.
who will be charging? Will be charging the developer?
It depends. If it is deemed that we decide or that the information does show that turning lane with the lighting is needed there.
No lights, because no lights on.
Well,
That's the turn, I mean.
The turn lane or lights, because we did talk about that in that area. If it is determined that it is needed, then we will send that information to the county, and that could be included in that widening project.
Why you put a light there on the freeway?
I'm not saying that, but that was one of the questions that came up, so I'm adding that in that.
No, yeah, they say something, they say that in the meeting, won't be no light there. They gotta emphasize that.
I agree.
Yeah, they say it will be no lights, period.
I agree, but the turn lane was, also she asked about the lighting, so about the turn signal lighting.
No,
So that's why we're looking at that as well.
Yeah, they already said that.
And it's gonna be a 4-lane highway. So we have to keep that in mind.
Correct.
You're looking at about 500 to 600 cars out of that one Lake Western,
And
430-something apartments.
but the temporary driveway going into that should have been on them, not us, to make it suitable for entering on Kennedy. So that's the first thing there. So that's all.
In that agreement, when the Lake Western agreement, not the other one, but in the Lake Western agreement, one of the things I did ask for was I don't remember the verbiage if I asked for a traffic study, but I did ask in that agreement for there to be some sort of traffic mitigation that's on them. That's their cost. Because I knew you don't approve or disapprove of a project based on traffic, because it's not our job to widen roads. So I asked for that. Also in regards to the number of units, I know that there was a provision for first responders, but there was also another provision for 10 years, 10 units, 10% off. the market rate, and that was in general, not, if I remember that correctly. So condolences to all the families. There were several funerals last weekend, and we're going to come into this weekend with more funerals. You know, it's going to be a part of life. So condolences to everyone that's losing family members. Also, is that Xi Beta sorority? I don't know why I can't pronounce. Is it Xi Beta? But Xi Beta sorority is having a painting with a twist at the Boys and Girls Club on the 20th, and it's for children, and it's free. It came over our class dojo at school, so I haven't seen any flyers, so I'm just saying it to you because it was just noticed today. Happy belated Mother's Day, happy Emancipation Day. Also in regards to the property, what's next, I think in Mr. Presley's report, he was talking about all the studies. Also, he's going through the stakeholders. So what's next? We need to know what it is that the town wants. So I think through the stakeholders meetings, we glean that information. And that's going to help with what's next on that property. In regards to any conversations I've had with any school board members, I'll be glad to share that with you. I did meet with board member Dento, who has been very open and sincere and authentic through this whole process. And I did talk about the 17 acres. I ran on that. I've always wanted a sports complex of some sort on that property. When you look at not gang violence, youth violence, nothing to do. You've said it here in this council, but that's everywhere. Also bringing foot traffic into the town, that would be one way to do it. And I was thinking competitive level, a multi-sports complex there. So just if you want to know where my mind is, that's where my mind has been in all the literature when I ran for mayor. So that's just a promise I'm trying to fulfill. In regards to the 100 acres, depends what the people want. I am also all for a museum. I love the Orlando Museum of Arts. I say that all the time. It has all the different components, including an inside theater, art display. So, so those are my thoughts. Did I say happy belated Mother's Day? I did. Mr. Presley, thank you. You are working very hard. You've been dedicated to this job. And I know that you and I have discussed, it's not my fault that you haven't been confirmed. It's not my fault. It is his fault. It's his fault.
Mr. Presley's fault?
It's Mr. Presley's fault.
Oh, okay.
So, and in regards to the tablet event, I don't remember if it was Spectrum or one of the other wireless companies. They also have that program. It wasn't the same names. And are these the same people that would be at the Family Dollar? Because they were doing a tablet sign
It's an
up.
African American company. They're not even local, and they're a tech company.
But the program. So here's what my question is this: when there's an agreement with and it's going to be town-wide. Now I'm thinking MOU, because if it's town-wide, something goes wrong with it. They promise internet access. It doesn't happen. The town backed it. Who's responsible for the phone calls? Who's going to get the phone calls if they don't pick up the phone? We don't do a call here. So some sort of agreement with whoever's going to be doing it, that they'll take care of all of that.
No problem.
And I think that's it. All right. With that being said, is a motion to adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved in second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed. It is 8:44.
That's too much after, right? Wishful thinking. What do you think? So So when I sign, when the mayor, cut this off.